Let's face it, Keenan, a lot of people are starving today. If they're not starving today, they might be starving tomorrow. We're working for the market. The market is no longer working for us, and we productize everything. And capitalize on everything to where we actually enjoy nothing.
Because it's actually significantly harder to preserve your money than it is to make money.
We brag about the spending power, but the spending power is just a signal to the rest of the world that you're a consumer. We see what's about to happen with SpaceX. If you walk into a crowd of starving people and say, look, I just fed myself 1 million times over, everybody should clap.
They have a way of making you feel insignificant with your own money. True wealth is being happy with what you have.
What exactly is a family office? How do you get your family office to pay zero taxes like Donald Trump? What advice would you give to another man out there trying to lead his family? Are you optimistic about the future?
I am.
Why?
So the definition of a family office is really the operating system for a family. If you were to look at your family, how is it structured like a business? The wealthiest families in the world have very low burn. They don't spend a lot. When everybody has money, the party feels a lot like the same party I used to go to when nobody had money.
I'd rather be around people that are smarter than me in what they do. Unfortunately, everybody's not going to be successful. And do the people that do become successful have the right guidance to stay successful?
What happens when I'm no longer here? I think about that a lot because it's your money and you're the CEO. You're the king or queen of your family. You matter. You are significant. That's the feeling. So if you don't feel like that, yeah, you should probably leave.
And afraid to start a family is basically like afraid to continue the future.
We want to continue to be the best show in the world, so we need your support for that. So if you enjoy this conversation, if you enjoy the value of this channel and the rest of these high-level conversations, please help spread the word. We also need you to like and we need you to comment so we can be at the top of the algorithm. We're building out the platform that's going to take the culture forward. Whether you're a small business or a big business, we have different packages that you can come in and help sponsor episodes so we can take things to the highest level. Now, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but if this is an exciting offer for you, then go to 19keys.com/HLC so that you can join the high level team. I appreciate you for being here and I appreciate you for watching this episode. Continue to stay high level. Peace, family.
The word family comes from the Latin word familia. It originally not just mean parents and children. It was an ancient Roman Empire society that familia referred to the entire household structure under one authority. That includes parents, children, servants, slaves, workers, property managers, and extended dependents. The deeper root comes from famulus, which means servant, household servant, attendant. So originally, family was less about emotional connection and more about a coordinated economic and social unit under one governing structure. In Rome, the paterfamilias was the male head of the household who controlled property, inheritance, marriage arrangements, labor, and legal authority. So the earliest meaning of family was closer to an organized household system. Not simply a mother, a father, children. That started to evolve over time into a modern emotional and biological understanding. But historically, family was deeply tied to governance, economic, survival, labor coordination, inheritance, and continuity. This is why the word still carries institutional weight today. This is the pattern if you start to really draw back and look at how ancient societies treated family. It was the smallest political institution, right? A micro of the macro system. And the tribe was the expansion of families. The kingdom was the expansion of the tribes. And the empire was the expansion of coordinated systems of families. Without the knowledge and the science and the history of that, one gets caught up in the emotional relationship, the romanticization of what a family is. Even in media today, family is rarely positioned like that unless you are showing the elites, right? Like Succession. Then you can understand how family is an organized and coordinated system with leaders and authority, right? But today, we've lost the plot. Modern society doesn't even understand what family is for and what it is meant for. And I think that having the conversation allows us to develop a rebirthing of, number one, deciding what family is, because it doesn't mean you have to go to some Roman right times of what family is, but is understanding the root of what it was meant to be, and then also understanding how these things started to change over time. Right? Because we could also visit way Eastern looked at family and way the global South looks at it. But I think because we are closer to a Roman Empire in America, it's probably much better to look at the original version in the lineage, right? That we are all now a part of, being in America, the way we have operated with family systems and the lack thereof. I wanted to start off with that because if people see on the table, there's a hat that says family office. And we're going to get into that. And I want us to understand that if you're going about it alone, you're going about it wrong, right? And if we're talking about the future of family, the future of institutions and wealth building, the future of politics, the future of life, all of these things, there's a grave uncertainty when you don't have backup. We're much more confident when we're doing things together. But that togetherness has to have a layer of coordination, because a bunch of fools together means nothing, right? Because even a smaller coordinated system can beat an uncoordinated army. So today I want to talk to somebody who is the first guest who's ever been on High Level Conversation. He kicked it off with us talking and having what at the time was called $1 billion conversation. And we even talked about the LeBrons in the family, right? And now we're at a facility that is 68,000 square foot and a multi-use family office, right? That I look at as the institution for the culture, right? The headquarters for the culture to build and create coordinated networks. And first, getting people to understand family office is where I want to start. Second, I want to go into a little bit of your credentials. My brother Keenan Beasley. Those who are fanatics of this show, and you probably are if you're watching, y'all know who he is. But if you came here on season 5 and you just arrived, then I want my brother to give a breakdown of exactly who he is and how do you get into a position where you want to be the culture's co-founder.
Yeah. I mean, well, look, where it started, if we're jumping in there, man, it's good to be back, first off.
Welcome back,
right.
brother.
You know what I mean?
Welcome back.
Like, it's
High level alumni.
It's been a couple of years, so I was honored to be first. And what's great about that is it meant that I wasn't last. So there's been some amazing guests that I've been watching after my episode. So excited to kind of take it a full circle moment. I mean, background wise, right? I grew up right here in LA, so it makes sense for me to plant a flag of a family office here in LA because this is where I'm from. This is where my family was. Birthed me. So, but aside from that, I'm a West Point graduate, right? So I went to the United States Military Academy, the #1 school in the world, but it's an engineering school, right? It is the birthplace of our military officers, and some of the great leaders that have sacrificed a great deal for this country. So very, very proud graduate of West Point. Played football there, so I was a D1 football player as well.
You look like
it. I'm trying to look less like it, actually, but we see that Shake Shack that I just had probably did help. But aside from that, my career, I started off as an engineer. First at Raytheon, I was designing ships and electronic surveillance systems, but I'm a systems engineer by trade as well as law. From there, I went into Procter & Gamble. So that is, one of the largest consumer products company in the world. But I say they're the best brand builders in the world. So they build the biggest household brands that we know. So I was privileged enough to lead brands like Tide, the #1 laundry detergent, to lead brands like Gillette, the #1, brand in shave care, Duracell, #1 in batteries. Then went over to another company called Reckitt Benckiser, where I got to lead French's Mustard, Frank's Red Hot Sauce. Then, I managed Lysol, Dettol globally. So, my background has been big, multi-billion-dollar legacy brands that have a great deal of history and heritage, but also have to find ways to modernize, right, to reach the consumers of today. So I got out of that. I was one of the youngest vice presidents in some of those companies' history. So I was only 29 as an executive, and that's where they promoted me too quick, so I became an entrepreneur. Right, I was really chasing learning and knowledge. So got out of that, man. Started a MarTech company. Was fortunate enough to exit. Started an ad agency. Was fortunate enough to exit that, and then kind of brought me to where I am today, which is a serial entrepreneur that's launched a lot of brands and products, but was on a quest to build really a system and a platform of impact. And I think it's the right segue into what you did in your intro, which is talking about what a family is. And when you think about a family, especially a family office, it's an operating system. So my whole career has been this journey of trying to figure out what is my personal operating system, right? As I'm navigating life, work, right? And now, a family and a father of two. That's been the journey. And I think we can all kind of relate to that. That's the journey of adulthood, right? It's trying to figure out your own operating system. And I just was fortunate enough to be able to pick parts from the best operating systems in the world, which are these multi-billion-dollar brands that I was privileged enough to lead. So it's very apropos that I got to do that and then kind of get in the position where I am today.
What do you think? And I know this is like a off the wall question in the essence of like they don't really have relation. But if we're looking at billion-dollar companies,
Yeah.
what can an average family learn from a billion-dollar company?
The most simple thing is an operating system is designed to handle complexity. The more money doesn't necessarily mean the more complexity. Sometimes the more money comes from simplifying the complexity. So I actually think it's harder to manage something smaller than something large. So those larger brands actually provide the inspiration or even the aspiration that I think every family is. But I always say every family should be thinking like a family office. And when I say thinking like a family office resources are expensive, right? A single family office, and we'll get into that, can cost upwards of $1 to $2 million a year, which is why we have a multi-family office to kind of share that cost across our families. But the mindset is free, so you can think and operate like a family office for free, and that's something I encourage all families to do. So get yourself organized, understand your cash flow, right? Set goals and a mission for what you want to do. That's exactly what big brands do, right? They understand the balance sheet. What is the cost structure of the business? All right, where does it want to go in 5, 10, 15 years? Set a vision, right? Then look at what are barriers that we have today and how do we eliminate that? So it's really about get the system on the same page. So get your family on the same page, and that avoids a lot of complexity. So we can do that right now.
Right. So if we're looking at basically first kind of defining what a family office is, right? And before you get there, looking at the borrowed ideas that even created what a modern family office is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're talking about tribes and you're talking about clans that people had, right? And empires. And the modern structure of a family office borrowed from those ideas.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that it's first starting with stripping of how does one manage their tribe, right? How do you find your tribe, right? How do you manage the resources of the tribe? Who is the authority, right? Then is looking at beyond the continuity of whatever you have in place right now. How do you make that last beyond you?
Absolutely.
Right? If this figurehead leaves, is there a structure in order for that family to thrive?
Yep.
And I think that this conversation should bring about clarity, number one, of what a family office is, but how it relates to every person in their family. And I think that we may be doing family wrong, right? And I think that there needs to be some structure put back in what a family is so that we can operate, especially in this day and age of complexity.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's the most damaging thing, is that a family should have a level of digital literacy, right? Like there's almost like you might give a kid an iPad and say, go play.
Yeah.
Right? But let's say that that's against tribal rules, that we don't operate like that, that there's a level of literacy to making sure that that mind You understand me? It's not overly distracted and lost before they have the capacity to be able to focus.
Yeah.
Because if I'm passing them down resources, I need to make sure it's going into capable minds.
Yeah.
Right. And so you're talking about the difference between somebody sending their child to public school versus somebody sending them to leadership school.
Yeah.
Right. And then when you look at the outcome of that family in the next 5 to 10 years, you can say, man, the reason that this family is successful has nothing to do with luck. It has nothing to do with probability of seeing which child become successful. It has everything to do with the structure that that child was born into,
Yeah.
right? That is able to continue as long as everybody plays their role inside that system.
Yeah, I mean, Keys, even with all of that, right? I mean, dreaming and thinking about the future is in some ways a privilege. You know, it's hard to think about tomorrow when you're worried about today. And I think a lot of us, especially in our communities and the communities that I came from, people are worried about today. It's really, really hard to put somebody when they're managing all this level of ambiguity and kind of chaos on, you know, where their next meal is coming from, safety, right? All of these things that are happening and burdening them today to then even dream and think about tomorrow. And I think that's why there's such a job, anyone that becomes a parent, you want to protect your child so that they can dream and have that sense of imagination. So you're trying to create a comfortable world around them, right, that is predictable. They know when snack time is. They know when bedtime is, because you want to remove the complexity of their life so that they can dream, imagine, and play. As we get older, that becomes harder. So that's why I always say the first thing that you do in developing the mindset and moving like a family office is you have to list out and try to understand where the what's complex, what are the barriers, right? What is burdening you and stopping you from being able to dream? And that's why we say get a handle on your finances first. Understand, hey, what's coming in, what's going out? Because if you can get a handle on that, at least you've eliminated some variables in your life. You're like, okay, I can cover all my bills with what I got. Now you can start to dream and think about 5, 10, 15 years.
Right.
Because as you talked, right, that's a lot of what a family office is trying to do. They're thinking about wealth preservation and legacy, because it's actually significantly harder to preserve your money than it is to make money. And a lot of people are so, you know, you have to first make it.
Right.
And if you're first generation, that seems extremely hard. But once you make some money, you realize it's really, really hard to keep it. And we're not just talking about taxes. We're talking about overall governance, right? There's a lot of slippage that can happen in life. But again, the first set is try to eliminate complexity and get your arms around your life. And so many of us are running around and we actually don't have our arms around our life, right? And we're just reacting, right? Family office is about treat it as an operating system so you can get ahead, plan, predict, prepare, right? And then execute.
Right.
That's what we're trying to do. And I think we can develop that mindset no matter what your income level is, right? No matter how much you have in assets, right? But let's get that mindset right. We can do that today.
You know, I look at it like, because I agree with that. It's if I parallel this to, let's say, Black history, right?
Yeah.
I think that we have failed to produce multi-generational institutional outcomes, right?
Yeah.
At any scale, because they was disrupted before they was able to truly coordinate in that capacity. Right. If you look at the Booker T. Washingtons, where it's focused on land ownership and industrial education and economic coordination and institution building, but there's always disruption.
Yeah.
All the way from Madam C.J. Walker, she had distributed networks and training systems and pipelines for Black women, but there are disruptions. Same thing with Marcus Garvey to the Nation of Islam. Now I look at the modern family, right? Let's just say, if we snapshot, you got Asians are doing family very well, right? If you look at their wealth standard, I think that they focus on making sure that they're focused on the industries that are going to boom. So what are the emerging industries? So they get in technology. So by the time that comes over, they already in place, right? So now they're exceeding in the roles that are the highest paid, right? And founders of companies that are booming on a daily basis. And then we get compared, as I'm saying, we, like black and white families, are always getting compared in the racial wealth gap at all times, even though Asian families have the highest wealth standard. And I would say even a better family model if we're talking family office structure and or setup institutionally, right? And so now I look at, though, let's say the black family, if you will, as we talk about spending power, we talk about educated black women, we talk about skill sets, we talk about black businesses, all these different things, but there's no coordination between none of them, right? And so the reality of it is like if there was a black family or black America family office, it would look like, how do you then take those things and give it a infrastructure layer to where these things are now a coordinated system, right? And then once they have a coordinated system, they can have continuity.
Yeah.
Until then, the energy gathers, but then disperses, right? Because there is no infrastructure for that energy to go into the next thing. And so I was talking with Trav, who works with you, and I say a lot of money management is, how long do you want to have a good time?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you could be up and you could be having a good time for a year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But hey, next year it won't be a good time because of the way you spend and the way your habits is going.
Yeah.
Right? Doing COVID, everybody getting them checks, having a good time. But how long do you want the good time to last?
Yeah.
That's where the coordination comes in. That's where the responsibility comes in. That's where the investment comes in. Because what it really is management of time and the quality of life, right? Based on, the quality of time that you're spending. And so I think that's what it really boils down to.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, even in that, just going to the examples around racial makeup, right, or ethnicities, a lot of this comes down to clarity of purpose and mission. So what cultural norms do is they give you this kind of continuity, right? This red thread that can run through generations, right? That gets passed down. These norms. Religion does a great job of that, right? So you start to know what you're fighting for, which is the preservation of heritage, right? Or cultural norms, or religion and faith. Within the black community, this also is very challenging because so much of that was broken and shattered, right, through slave trade and the dismantling of cultural history. So you're kind of constantly with a group that has to reset and restart. And so a lot of what I believe in is these passed on traditions, right? Like the idea of what do you make for Thanksgiving and Christmas or whatever it is that you're celebrating. What dinners do you have? What's the passed on recipe from grandma to grandchild? Like those little things actually help clear up and say, I want to preserve this forever. And they give you something to fight for. So I always think, with most of us, let's have that North Star. Let's have the thing that we want to fight for and preserve. And it forces discipline. And so when I look at, the Asian communities, yes, they're doing well as a collective. The white community, numerically as a collective, doing well. The black community, we have these pockets of excellence that are all over, and we can point to them, and they're often publicly celebrated, which creates, I think, unnecessary pressure on those individuals. But we'll save that for another day. But I think there are pockets of this, like, of excellence that are taking place. Then our collective, though, is on a glide path to zero wealth by 2053. And part of that is because there is so much predatory, right, attacks that are going on in the black community because of the power that exists within it. There's so much influence that resides within black communities and within black culture that there are a lot of external threats and people pulling from that. And that's the slippage, right? That's from the lack of governance and understanding. So what we have to get back to is a celebration of it. So I don't want to talk about going, black community on a path to zero wealth. I want to talk about how many black millionaires and the fact that we're adding more, right? I want to talk about the excellence and the amazing things. What are the things that we want to preserve? There's so much negativity that gets sensationalized in the black community versus other communities where I want to see more positivity. And you've known me well enough where I like talking about the positive things. I like talking about what's right. It's easy to poke on what's wrong, but let's talk about how, music, art, film, technology, you look at almost every sector, the center of excellence, or what you can point to as the best, is someone that looks like you and I, or somebody in our family. And that should be revered and talked about. And now, how do we replicate that? How do we preserve the process in which that was created? Because for me, when I see greatness, when I see excellence, when I see success, I'm always trying to hack, well, how do we replicate that?
Mm-hmm.
So when I look at amazing families, how do we replicate that in other families? How do we replicate that across the culture and the communities? So to me, I think that's where I want to shift and keep the focus, is on the excellence that we possess.
I think it's because we have a Western psychology, then we have Eastern psychology, right? Western psychology says, what do I want to become? Eastern systems, right, historically is about how do I honor and continue the lineage. So, and another way is looking at, one is about what do I want to scale, right? What do I want to stabilize, right? So I think we focus so much on scaling and not always on stability.
Yeah.
And family, if we're talking about wealth systems of continuity, it should be about stability, right? How do we continue this thing if it's going good?
Yes.
And then how does our family impact other families so that they can have continuity, you understand me, and growth as well? I think the reason why excellence sometimes turned into a conversation, right, of toxicity, if you will, because we use the conversation about individual self-actualization and individual self-grandiose of success, and saying that it really does not matter if the collective is starving as long as I'm eating very well.
Correct.
Right? So if you walk into a crowd of starving people and say, look, I just fed myself 1,000,000 times over, everybody should clap, right? Or do you also understand the context of the environment that we in? Because let's face it, Keenan, a lot of people are starving today.
100%.
Right? And, if they're not starving today, they might be starving tomorrow. So part of this is also, how do we make sure that people don't starve? And how do we increase the quality of life? How do we increase life expectancy? How do we give people clarity, direction, and guidance in this time, day, and age where people are afraid to start families?
Yeah.
And afraid to start a family is basically like afraid to continue the future.
Yeah.
Like everybody, if young women today are on a trend where they don't want to mate, right? Literally, and you got young men that are lonely, and there's so much economic pressure of saying that, how do I become a leader and authority within my family? Where is the knowledge that even it shows us? Where's the culture of family building, right? So as we talk about culture, I think a culture of excellence is one that allows us to ascend the pressure of the narratives of sliding wealth path, the narratives of negativity, and it produces optimism because we are naturally preserving systems that allow us to grow and succeed together.
Well, let's dive into that, right? So part of the challenge is what do you give attention to? We give so much attention to money, right? And that as the focal point of success. And what that does is that then eliminates wisdom.
Yeah.
Right? In elders, because you can actually make a lot of money early and be dumb as hell for the most part.
Yes.
So it's what is the focus, right? So money is a form of success. Yes, it's just not the only form of success. And that's why I'm always big on, let's boost up, right, our elders, right, the folks that are wise, that have the traditions, that have an understanding of the history, and let's put them on equal, if not greater, playing fields, right, or level of stature as those with money. And the challenge with the money conversation, again, it goes back to my earlier point. When you're focused on survival, money becomes everything, because it is, wow, it's my pathway out of the pain that I'm in. You just said, if folks may not eat today. So now if you are an 18-year-old kid who's getting an NIL check, you just became head of household. So without having the wisdom, the experience, you now are carrying the weight and the pressure as head of household. And now no one is grooming you anymore. They're looking to you to lead them.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not actually capable because money meant so much in that ecosystem. So I think we have to have a lot of empathy, all right, in our community and understand all of the dynamics behind that level of complexity, because there's a lot that we have to unpack. And again, part of it is like, let's not only look to the money. Let's look at things additionally, right? Let's look at experience, right? Talking to some brothers that have survived 20, 30 years incarceration and listening to them on how they train their gut for survival, on how to read somebody. Yeah, I can look at the mistake that they made or what may have landed them, or even if they're wrongfully convicted, right? I can look at that unfortunate. But then, man, how much can I learn from that person? And I think we have to get back to realizing you can learn so much from every person that you engage with. And if we stay on this quest for knowledge, there's so much knowledge out there, and I think that would stop a lot of this fall off, right? And these issues that we're highlighting today.
You know, I was just talking with Derek from Seven Streams.
Yeah, love him.
I was talking to him about, you are a reflection of your reflections, meaning that, you know, we have a reactionary society. So if we talk about survival mode, you have a bunch of people reacting to things, nervous system stuck in limbo, but don't actually have a lot of quality time to sit and reflect.
Yeah.
So the things that you say, right, you know, are a reflection of either what you're reacting to or what you've reflected. And if you reflected, you get to a point of deep wisdom.
Yeah.
Right. And that deep wisdom is deep silence. You hear very quality thoughts.
Yeah.
So by the time you open your mouth, you're saying everything that sounds wise, right? Because it's only coming from a place of reflection.
Yeah.
Right. Today we have a society that is completely based on a place of reaction.
Yeah.
So everything you're saying sounds like you're reacting to something or listen to somebody else's reaction.
Yeah.
It's shallow with no depth. Right. So you're a reflection of your reflections, and then it's money making versus meaning making. Right. Are you making meaning or are you making money? Yeah. Right. If you could live a life where you make meaning, right, these things are so aligned with you that you rarely even need discipline.
Yeah.
Discipline is the tax on misalignment. And we have a society that is so deeply misaligned that they have to forcefully and willfully get themselves to do things, and they become burnt out. Right. And so what I'm thinking about, and even if we talk about the concept of family office and even the space that we in, what I see is that people come in here, and money can sometimes be this conversation where it's so dry, right? It's downright to business.
Straight transaction.
And it's more so about like, how do we even, because money is energy, and the things that we do with our life and our time is how we make our money. Right. And if we're doing something meaningful, then the money, which is a byproduct of that meaning, means something to us as well. We don't want to waste it.
Yeah.
So when you walk into a space, are you just a number, or do you see a soul? Do you see a human being?
Yeah.
Right. Because this business can be soulless. And I like the idea of seeing the way y'all work and the camaraderie y'all have with clientele and people that come in. It's a soulful exchange.
Yeah.
Right. It's meaning then money. You know, like, let's talk about your life and who you are. That's and right. I think so much of Western world is lost without the ritual of let's harmonize first, let's synchronize first. It's like you might go into a meeting in Japan and they may want to sit down and talk first. No business first. Let me get to know who you are. Who is your family? Let's have dinner. We're synchronizing first. Yeah. Then once I know you a good person, the business deal is already done.
But it's always funny in the space, right? If you break down the types of family offices, right, and multifamily offices, the majority are focused on inherited wealth. So inherited wealth is predominantly about protection and passed down, right, the governance and the systems of it. When you're dealing with new wealth, which is where we focus, it's younger, right? Those individuals come from culturally diverse backgrounds. They are not planning for retirement. They're planning for the next career and lifestyle. So that is about energy, as you talk about, right? So the thing that we're caring for and what we have to surround ourselves with is their energy in the person is what we're protecting, right? So now as I look at your life, like part of it is, were you able to get that out, right? So I want you to come down and sit and tell me your dreams, because you got all this responsibility, But you got this energy of dreams that you haven't been able to get out because no one was wanting to listen. So if I can just be a person that listens to your dream, that's therapeutic. That's caring for the whole of somebody. That is that soulful exchange, because the people in front of us, our clients, it's not just money. Money's a part of it, but it's the person. We got to care for the whole individual. That's what cultural understanding is, right? Versus just being institutionally credible.
Right.
We have a mandate where we have to be both.
Yeah.
Because we're serving both.
Yeah. I think there's this, when you was talking, it made me think about this concept of like going to the top. And we always say it's lonely at the top, right? And so it's like an inherent narrative that the more successful I'll become, the more lonely I'll become.
Yeah.
Right? Versus like going to the center, right? And I think about that as like when you are centered as a human being.
Yeah.
You're the most aligned and, to me, the most successful, like mentally and spiritually.
Yeah.
Right. And success should be moving you closer to the center, right? Where I think that there's more people than less people.
Yeah.
And I think this is almost energetically, like if we're talking about a family office, it's about aligning the family together.
Yeah.
To live a greater life for a much longer period of time. It's not the sacrifice of our humanity, but it's more so about the preservation, right? And the stabilization of our humanity, especially in a crazy ass world.
Yeah.
So it's more so in a way that I'm thinking, like success being going to that center, being the center of the family, right? And the values of that center of the family and how to structure the money in that family, and that being the North Star that allows us to have guidance and clarity regardless of the times that we're in.
Yeah.
Right? Like a man needs to be able to lead his family.
Yeah.
Right? And if a woman is currently in her family and she's the head of the household, what system and structure does she put in place to lead as well? And then when your family becomes successful or you become successful, how do you transition from the person that made the money from the person that can keep the money and grow the money? Because those are two different people as well, right? And so I'm interested to hear that as, let's say you always call it the unintended wealth group. How do we make sure that the unintended wealth group, those who are new founders in tech and AI and on social media and those who are getting checks from entertainment, athletes, etc., how do we make sure that the money that they have is not lost? Because we see the stories all the time.
Yeah, I mean, look, I call it the unexpected wealth group for a reason, because it happens so fast. So the normal journey of success, or the historical journey, right? It's built in wealth, especially, is built over time. So the older you are, the more wise you become, which means you understand how to use your resources. So every CEO, whether it's of a family or of a corporation, the leadership and the burden of leadership is lonely within the organization. But what do they always have? A board of advisors. They have this team around them. And you learn that if you grow up and you do it corporately or through the military, all of that, your team is protecting you so that you can protect the organization, right, in the family. So part of what we're doing is mimicking that behavior. That head of household, now we are the advisors. We are the trusted counsel that's both looking after them so that they can look after their entire family. And then we're structuring that mindset and those rules and habits and behaviors for generations to come. So that's the structural aspect of what we're doing and why we have to do it. But every great leader should have an advisor. All right, that's the critical piece. You have to build the infrastructure around it. Because again, like I said, it's easier to make money, harder to keep it. Right? So it's relatively easy to start your family. It's really hard to keep that family together over generations. We've all seen that when, the matriarch of a family passes away. And when that time comes, everyone's scrambling. Like, do we keep the traditions alive? Who's next? Who's going to plan dinner? Whose house do we go over? Who's cooking? Right? Those things you're trying to structure. So again, we're trying to prep families and get them ready to continue that, right? And have a system to pass that down, rules and things that we go to. So you see the biggest family offices in the world, they have places and retreats because that becomes a steady, known spot that everyone goes and convenes. And it's built into the governance and the framework where it's mandated. Every summer we go here. All of our kids go to this institution. That's why we've donated, right? They're creating, again, minimizing the complexity, creating this framework of simplicity so you can keep that standard of excellence for generations to come. All right, that's part of what you're doing.
So what exactly, let's back it up a little bit. What exactly is a family office? And I forgot who said that you can be in a room with multiple people and they all give somewhat of a different definition and perspective on a family office.
Yeah.
So I'm asking more so like your definition and perspective of a family office.
Well, it's always interesting because the definitions can be the same. It's how people execute it can be different. So the definition of a family office is really the operating system for a family. So I say it simply, it is treating a family like a corporation, right? So that if you were to look at your family, how is it structured like a business? And within that comes the governance. So that's why I say money is a part of it, but so is philanthropy.
Yeah.
Right? So is education. Right? All of these things. So is health, right? If you really get down into the nuance of it. So it is the operating system in which you want your family to move and operate for years to come. That's as a definition. Said another way, what I look at it as, and in the job of a family office advisor, right, which is a registered investment advisor, which we have on our team, or someone like me who is the architect of the platform.
Do you have to be a registered advisor?
To lead a family office, yes. To lead an actual investment practice, yes, you should.
And what qualifications do the investment officers that you have?
They have to take tests. Then the entity has to be SEC registered. You're audited. Those are things that keep you very above board.
SEC registered, so that's a tough audit.
That is a tough audit. And that is because you are responsible, right? You are fiduciary, meaning you are caring for the investments of someone else. So, an RIA, if you want to, kind of break that down, you have RIAs, then you have, banks and business managers. Business managers are kind of paying bills, right, and doing those things. They do not have to be, they're not registered investment advisors. They really shouldn't be touching investments at all. A lot of people have business managers or accountants. They confuse that with an advisor or a fiduciary. Then you have banks, and banks are like your, Morgan Stanleys, right? Your Goldman Sachs, right? Those banks which have private wealth clients, those are products that are internal, right, to just the bank. So the bank's job is to protect the bank.
When you say products, what do you mean?
Lending products, trust, estate products, right? Even investment products, they are within the platform. Then you have registered investment advisors, which is a higher level, which means they are client first. So they are fiduciaries in open architecture where they can find the best products out there that meet their clients' objectives. That is where I tell everybody to try to move towards. That not just because we have one, but I think that is just right and something that I personally was looking for my family, right? I want somebody that has my family's, interests and needs. They put that first. I don't want you to put the bank first, right? I don't want you to only have a piece of it because that's now I have to deal with the rest of the complexity. I wanted a one-stop shop solution, and that is what RIAs and family offices can provide. Now, within that, you have single family offices, individuals who, typically are north of 50 million in net worth, can build that infrastructure themselves. It typically has a cost of, call it $1 to $2 million a year just to operate that from a staff standpoint. Or you can be in something like Factory that we have, which is a multifamily office where the fees are significantly lower and the cost is less burdensome. And you have people that have a wide range. They can be, even as 1 million and up. But what that is now you have the collective power, right? And you have real weight when you go to the market for deals, for banking products, et cetera. You have the weight of everyone coming together and how you're looked at. So,
how do you get your family office to pay zero taxes like Donald Trump?
You know what? You got to talk to your CPA on that one. I'm gonna get to...
Well, I mean, like he waived it all. The IRS ain't even touching it. How do you do that?
You know, we got to get him on the podcast. I think you need him on high level. That's a higher level than me right there.
I don't know if I should do that one. We already had RFK. It was a lot going on with that one. Yeah, I'm gonna let y'all manage the politic on that one.
No, that's good, but that's just that good complexity. See.
So I did a little bit of research on, the Medici family and like the Rockefeller family having some of the.
You guys see how he did that?
Talking
About he did a little research. He did a whole lot of research.
Well,
Go ahead. All right, I'm ready.
I find my interest. First of all, the Medici family is interesting because, they're a family that intentionally sparked renaissances, right? So within their family office, they use that to, fund artists and seed different art, right? To push this intentional, rebirthing of this era of so-called like enlightenment and things of that nature, right? And then I kind of look at that in the culture. If you look at like a W.E.B. Du Bois, where he had an intentional intellectual network behind the scenes that helped push the Harlem Renaissance. So you can kind of look at that as if he was operating like a family office, but we more so look at these things as movements and, liberation movements and revolutions and activism and things of that nature, right? But it's still the same layer of coordination, right? Because they handle politics and stuff like that. Then you have the Rockefellers, who have a very complex setup, where they're in, fifth, sixth generations in, where if you're a sixth generation in Rockefeller, they have a bank, right? So now if you want to go there and you want to borrow money, right, they might give you a line of credit to where, let's say, you first able to get $100,000 or $1 million.
Yeah.
Now, it's going to prove your credit worthiness based on what you do with that money. It's not that you just inherit this and it's yours, but the family office, which also has a board and things of that nature, is what you're going through. That family itself is the bank. Yeah. That family itself is its own private government, right? And its own sovereign system. Yeah. Right. And that really interested me in thinking about that, right? Because I think that we talk about generational wealth a lot. But generational wealth, I think, more so needs to kind of transform into generational sovereignty, of how do you create these systems of continuity, right, that can be preserved over time. And we talk about generational wealth, but the idea of family offices are completely absent. We talk about aspects of the family office, like setting up trust, like the Rockefellers or something, but we don't actually talk about the system that actually sets up the trust, right? And therefore, I think we're missing elements of this whole thing, because whether you're setting your family up like a small tribe or you're operating with other tribes, which are families, and then those families operating together, which become dynasties, I think the future of that, right, is family offices, whether you're calling it that or not, operating exactly like one. Yeah. And I also want to know, why are family offices so popular right now? Because there's a surge of family offices. It wasn't that many at first. This was exclusively really reserved for more elite, right, families of the 0.1%.
Well, I mean, historically, right? So you got to go back to 1880 or so, right? Mm-hmm. When J.P. Morgan, helped Rockefeller first set up kind of the first, family office as we know it. They didn't really start getting popular until the 80s, right? And 90s. And now they're really starting to boom because, well, there's a surge of wealth. You're seeing more and more billionaires, right? You're seeing shifts in tax code. So it's become easier to obtain wealth in this modern era. And the more wealth you obtain, right, the more you need structure, because it can last longer, right? If you only have $1 million, but you spend $100,000 a year, well, it only lasts 10 years. Yeah. So you don't need so much complexity in your trust, in your estate plan, because you only got 10 years of runway on that. Now, if you have $100 billion and that money can last infinite at that stage, right? Then now you have a more complex system, right? And set of rules and governance and structure around it. So it really just depends about where you're at, right? And how much complexity. I think we can romanticize the Rockefellers and that understanding. And I think it's great to have these like aspirational North Star. But again, foundationally, let's look at, one, is our living expenses, right? Are they in line with how much we have, and how long can it last? And the real statement about wealth that I like to adhere to is true wealth is being happy with what you have. And that framework and philosophy actually will drop your spending in itself, because I think a lot of times within new money, we're making up for what we feel is lost time. So we're chasing something and we're overspending. The wealthiest families in the world have very low burn, cash burn, actually. They don't spend a lot. They're quite happy with what they have. And these are relative statements, but I think that is the foundation of it, is let's get comfortable and try to drop the burn down on our spending, get happy and comfortable with what we have. Now let's look at what's our earning potential. Can we drive up more income? Can we accumulate more assets? Now we can get into more complex structuring.
I think so I want to get into an aspect of that then in the different parts that it deals with. So let's say education, right?
Yeah.
We are in the education system, right? We optimize for labor, right?
100%.
And but a wealthier family would then take their child to a leadership that is optimizing for managing systems, right? And when we're talking about system management, you can see why there's a difference between how we manage our wealth, right? Because if I'm managing money versus spending money, obviously I'm going to have more, right?
Yeah.
So we're not even taught about money management. Financial literacy is still, right? We still have high illiteracy rates right now.
Well, that's because all our money goes to survival.
Yes.
So there's nothing to manage.
Well, look at it. We complain, we're not complaining, we brag about the spending power, but the spending power is just a signal to the rest of the world that you're a consumer. And now they all want to sell you something, and you can't be mad if they're trying to manipulate you with marketing when you're saying our spending power is our greatest power.
100%.
Right? When it's more so about like our management of our dollar, our coordination that turns it into an economic system, which then become an institutional benefit for the collective.
Yeah.
Right? That's where we start thinking differently, number one, and we start thinking wealthier. And I think, aspirational wealth attainment for the average person, they probably kind of gave up on it, which is why gambling and things of that nature is high. Yeah. Right? But for those who do have money, those who are into stocks and investments and building businesses and things of that nature, I think the biggest thing that interests me about family office is the coordination between families.
Yeah.
Right? Like if I want my child growing up, I want them to be able to grow up, right, with other families that's in alignment with the same things.
Well, that get back to the first statement you were making about, we look at education. Yes, most of the school system is designed to produce more laborers, right? We get it. My lady and I, we talk about that. We're putting our kids in a school system to get a job that they'll never have, because they'll never have a job. But the more money,
put them in school.
So why put them in those schools? And I'll say, you go into schools now where some of the wealthiest families are sending their kids. It's because of networks. So they actually are optimizing for relationships. They're not optimizing to be laborers.
Yeah.
They're going to schools because of who else goes to those schools, and they build deeper connections and relationships and bonds. So that's a lot of what the schooling and education is. It's about the community. Yeah. And that's a place where you have this aspect of the starting points of a family office dynamic and ecosystem, or a multifamily office, because if the Beasleys go to school with the Muhammads and we're close, awesome. Now our kids build a stronger relationship over time, right? And that strengthens the dynamic and the bonds. Now we're moving like a multifamily office because guess what? Maybe our kids get together and they identify a business to buy, start, whatever that they do. Now we're creating this cycle in this system. So there's this nature and misunderstanding that people have even within the family office dynamic, that they think single family offices are isolated. Single family offices still work with other single family offices. And they've just created their own network map. They still go to large symposiums that are comprised of multiple single-family offices coming together to identify and conduct research, to invest together, to look at cities. You know, you can look at groups like Heartland Forward and, you know, in the Midwest, where you'll have, you know, the Walton family, but you might also have the Rockefellers or the J.B. Hunt family or the Tyson family, et cetera, where they're still looking at regional impact and things that they can do collectively. So again, family offices, to your point, it is about coming together as a coordinated effort to achieve a goal. And what you start to realize is as you clarify what your family's goals are, you'll start to find like-minded families that you want to network and work with. And you'll probably identify where you want to go to school, what industries you want to take over, right? Because now, as you always talk about, right, the Japanese kind of Keiretsu model, right? And as you start to look at these things, now you're saying, huh?
My favorite.
Yeah, your favorite. We do love the Japanese culture and history.
With the Keiretsu, I love the Japanese.
But it's like, you know, when you look at these institutions, well, if my family is in X industry, but it also has a proponent where it has we would benefit from a deep relationship in Y industry. Well, now it might be our two families coming together and we're doing almost like a joint business plan, right? It becomes this JV, right, where we can sign contracts between families over decades, right, to strengthen those bonds. So, you know, never underestimate the power of relationships and networks within the family office ecosystem.
Man, I think that's the goddamn key right there. You know, the Keiretsu is the Japanese economic coordination model. It's where multiple companies operate as interconnected networks, right? Through shared ownership, strategic relationships, financial systems, and long-term cooperation. So if we're looking at something like that, like number one, financial systems, and like sharing those financial systems and strategic relationships. I think that we're hoarding so much to ourselves that we don't understand the power of actually sharing those things.
Yeah.
Right? Like 10 families become a much greater bank, you know what I mean, than one. Let's say I got a child that wants to do a tech startup. We got 10 families coming together to piece up to go in on that. I always talk about the idea of Jeff Bezos. When he started Amazon, he went to family and friends.
Always.
You understand me? He went to family. I think they seated him with $50,000. Went to some uncles and cousins and got another $50,000 to $25,000.
Yeah.
And that started the biggest company in the world.
Always.
Right? Now, they could have looked at him and said, bro, I don't know what the hell you trying to start right now, this goddamn startup.
And they probably did.
Right,
but
they
still
did.
cut a check.
That's what they did. They told him, if this doesn't work out, then you got to go back to school for this thing we want you to. Right? But think about that opportunity. He went to the family as a bank.
Yeah.
And everybody bank ain't the same size, right? Yeah. But it's more so about imagine your child being able to put together that plan, right, historically, and then go to the family and then get that seeded. How many more growth, how many more businesses we'll have and startups that would have became multi-billion-dollar companies. Yeah. We can complain about the lack of loans that we get from banks, but what about the lack of loan we get from each other?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not talking about for emergencies. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about for entrepreneurship and business and economic growth.
That comes down to what we celebrate in our communities and in media, right? So, you know, most wealth building actions are copycat. So you see success in one area, everyone does it, right? That's even why if an individual is raising capital or raising money for a startup, they'll ask you, well, who's the lead? Because if there's a lead and that lead is of institutional prominence, then it's very likely that you'll finish the round because other people will invest after the lead. It's very hard to get that first check, the first line of support. And so usually where you go to first for support is your family, right? Your family and friends, the people who know you. So do they trust you enough? Do they believe in you enough to invest something in you so now you can get started and let the next group know, look what I did with that first $5,000. I did blank. Now you can come in with $100,000 so I can get to the next level. Yeah. Right. So that's just the trust in the ecosystems and the building of it. But that idea of friends and family, you have to be around people that understand investing and how to underwrite. Right. And when I say underwrite, how to evaluate whether or not this is a good or bad deal. right? You underwrite and you evaluate character every day. So is this person of good character? Do I want to invest my time? Does this person look like they could be in the NBA? Am I going to invest that AAU check to make sure that they can, or that trainer or those Jordans? So sometimes we have to look at our expenses and understand, is this a good investment? If you are 5'6" and your spouse is 5'2",
Yeah.
and your kid wants to play basketball, you should right size that investment. Because the chances that that investment is going to pay off is slim. It's very slim. So if you're out there, it's a chance, but it's a slim chance. So that's why I say you got to right size that investment. So we talk often about our community doesn't necessarily have the money to invest, but you have to look at where we're spending. We will invest in AAU and those sneakers and those traveling teams and all of these things, those Capri Suns and those orange slices that you got after the game. That's all money. And if you add that all up, you could have paid for a business. So again, we have to learn about investing and how to underwrite so that we right size the investment. So that just means understanding the risk and reward ratio. Bezos, his family, or Zuckerberg, or you see some of these, really, really massively, successful startups and entrepreneurs, their families oftentimes are very wealthy. But when you look at the first check relative to the amount of money that they were in possession of, it was a very small check. Right? So if I'm a billionaire and I write you $100,000 check, that's not a big or risky investment because I might have right-sized the risk. So even within their families, we get caught up in the numbers instead of talking about the context in which the number was delivered. Those were very risky investments, and they wrote a very small check relatively to them in order to see if something could happen. So let's not look at the first check. Let's also think about what happens in second check and the subsequent rounds that people go through. But that's just something as a community I think we need to spend more time evaluating where we're investing. And is it a good investment?
Yeah. So let's talk about the mission then of Factory.
Yeah.
Right? What is the mission of Factory?
Cultural sovereignty. Right?
What does that mean to you?
Yeah. So when I say cultural sovereignty, again, wealth, again, at its core for me, being happy with what you have and being in full control and possession of that, meaning free. So when I look at various cultures, there's a lot of dependencies. They're not necessarily free. So when I say, I want to go and produce a movie because this movie represents my family values and I want to see more of that, can I underwrite that? Right? Can I fund that? Can I finance it within my community? If I have to go outside and somebody now tells me, well, actually, I want you to change that scene, which we hear about in movies, which is why it was so impressive when we watched Ryan Coogler with Sinners. He was able to get a movie financed without having to shift or change the creative. He was able to do that because he built up so much credibility and cachet that he is now culturally sovereign. He is now free to creatively express himself in the way that he wants. He is a very wealthy man for that. That's the goal and my dream for everybody, right? Is that you can actually do things on your own terms. So we have to structure, prepare, get you ready for that so that that is your North Star. That is the end state. So that's why I say the mission for Factory is for cultural sovereignty, because as a group that is culturally fluent, I want to ensure that people within the culture are sovereign, meaning free, to do and express themselves in the way that they feel without outside noise, distraction, or modification that's against the values and the dreams that they have.
I like that. I'm in line with that 1,000%.
All right, we got the endorsement for Keys. Look.
I'm 100%.
Amechi, go ahead and put the URL right here so people can sign up. That's what I'm talking about.
100% aligned with cultural sovereignty.
All right.
There's so much that goes into just that concept of cultural sovereignty. First of all, Like if I think I'm thinking a lot about like cognitive sovereignty, right?
Yeah.
So I relate both of those things, but it's like if somebody's cognitively sovereign, then they're not dependent on external validation.
Correct.
Right? And external manipulation or persuasion on the outside are not affecting them. They have more internal, right, validation happening where they're not going to be easily persuaded away, and they're more critical thinkers upon things. And it's more so going to the resilience at the same time. And if we talk about what is that cultural resilience that we have, when the culture is often manipulated, right? Manipulated a lot in so many different ways, and so many people that we see have to take what you call hoe deals, you understand me? Because they're not in a position to take sovereign deals, to say no to things, right? Or be able to say yes to the things that they want to.
Yeah.
If we think about an athlete, right? An athlete may not even get opportunity to invest in a deal because there might be somebody that is managing his money that says, well, if I say yes to this, right, then he pours money into this, I'm managing less money and getting less fees. And you may never even heard that deal ever before.
Yeah.
It just never came to you, and somebody else is determining how your money is being invested, right? And so you might have your heart in the right place, but you never even had control over your resources and finances, and the people that you're trusting with your money, right, don't even trust you with your own money. And they don't trust the things that you believe in, or they don't care about those things because at the end of the day, they're still in it for their bottom line.
I had to go ahead and put on the family office hat.
Come
now,
on.
Since
If I wore different hats, I'll put that one on.
Look, yeah. That's keys right there. That one, that ultra high net worth.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
for
That's
him.
what we're going for.
I'm working on it. But look, when we talk about family office, and again, now you're getting into the feeling of factory versus other places. See, you can be a part of a lot of financial institutions and groups that are very credible institutionally, are filled with very smart people, and can do some amazing things, but they're oftentimes not culturally aligned. And so the things that matter to you, if they're not aligned to now, they have a way of making you feel insignificant with your own money and insecure about your own money. And now you've being manipulated to actually build and support somebody else's dreams. This happens a lot every day. In younger, wealthier, unexpected wealth groups, they get treated in ways that make them feel insecure or insignificant often. At Factory, here's the difference. Because we're culturally aligned, because we understand the journey that it took to get to where that individual is and where they are with their family, we treat them with the respect of being the CEO of their family. And in our world, there's a feeling of significance, not insignificance. You feel very significant. That's why we built a 68,000 square foot campus, a place where you can dream and explore and do all those things. Because that's the feeling that I want the culture to have, because the culture is significant, right? When you look at it on just the metrics of it, culture is driving everything. And you guys, when I'm saying culture, I'm not saying black versus white culture. I'm talking about when you look at cultural norms, internet culture is driving. Tech culture is driving changes, right? Music culture, sports culture right now is changing the entire landscape of media in this entire world. So these cultures are driving. So if you are powering that culture, what I want you to do is also be an owner in the things and the systems that you're powering. That's the Factory difference. We take your culture and the attention you get from that, and we turn that into more capital and more ownership. That's the feeling of significance because you matter. That's the Factory difference. And so you need to make sure you are at a family office that gives you that type of feeling, right? Because you are the CEO. So that means sometimes as a CEO, it doesn't mean you know everything. It means you have the vision to lead. And other people around you oftentimes should be patient enough to teach you because they are following that vision. That is what we're doing. So I may have to teach some of our clients along the journey, but it's their vision that we're supporting.
That gets me to orientation. I think one of my greatest gifts is orienting the culture.
Yeah.
Right. In times where there's great distraction and there's confusion, right? Who orients people to say this is what we should be doing right now?
Yeah.
Who's giving guidance? And my only competition is me thinking clearer and further ahead.
Yeah.
Right. So that I can see things to come and then give those messages. And I think about that as a family office, or even beyond the family office, but in the infrastructure that, getting that guidance and that orientation on what to do next.
Yeah.
Right. Because oftentimes we just want to come to somebody that we can trust and to be able to speak to hold some of our thoughts and our secrets to us, and then say, can you give me guidance and clarity on my next move? Yeah. And as you're somebody that is developing success in your high agency, a lot of times it's hard to have somebody to speak to.
Yes.
Because when you especially, unfortunately, everybody's not going to be successful. And do the people that do become successful have the right guidance to stay successful? Right? That becomes the question, because I've seen many success stories, but they didn't end successfully.
Yeah.
Right? They end up becoming a lesson for somebody else to learn from. And we should be able to take the lessons from the past and say we have enough of those, right? So that we can actually start protecting, mentoring, guiding, providing the coordination, the networks, the shareable resources, finances, so that we're actually making more success stories. You understand me? Versus less. And that's where we say, okay, we watched that episode, Keys. We want to know more. We want to be a part of this. And this then sparks this movement of many family offices, if you will, right? And giving that guidance on how you become that CEO for your family, and how success stops, generating from your influence, your gifts, and all of that. You generate these things, but then that transition is hard.
Yeah.
That transition is tough. And we're trying to transition this culture of fragmentation, of hyper individualism, right, to a point of coordination.
Yeah.
Right. And saying that, hey, number one, on the mentality side, we need you to relax.
Yeah.
You need to be calm.
Yeah.
Right. Because in the space where everything is frantic, the money burning a hole in your pocket, you understand me? You got so many people coming at you. I sit down with a lot of the top 1% athletes and leaders in the world. And one of the things always in common is how so many people are coming at you. And some of these people are good, but then they fighting the other people. And it's like, this person is dogging that person person is dog. You don't know who to trust and who to listen to. Yeah. And then you become a man or woman onto yourself trying to make decisions. Yeah. But then your gift is not even in that decision making. The thing that made you money is not also the same mind that can make a good decision with the money, because you have to continue to optimize for the gift. Yeah. So it's like, who do I trust that is on my side? Well, I can be in my gift. And I can trust your gifts, you understand me, so that you actually help protect what I'm building. Yeah. Right?
Well, this is, we have a line. I say, we make money with you, not off of you. But I use that as a line because what happens with head of household and the successful folks is they have the burden and the responsibility of caring for others.
Oh, that's for
sure. So what happens is people are coming to you with a lot of their needs. And kind of trying to guise it as something that is a good opportunity to you.
Don't mind me. I'm just,
hey, you should invest in this thing. It'll be really good for us. Well, that thing is probably their dream. So I think what's oftentimes, again, coming back to the process of factory, what's therapeutic is for you as the leader, get your dreams and your vision out. Yeah. Get it out and down on paper. And sometimes, somebody told me once, they were like, Keenan, you too cold to not have demands. Because I was so focused on helping others that I wasn't making demands and wasn't expressing what I wanted. Part of being a CEO of your family is thinking like a king. And when I say thinking like a king or king-like thinking, part of what that process is, do you have a vision for all those that you are responsible for? And if you have that vision, you have to execute that unapologetically, right? And without distraction. You have to lead. So if you are in the position to lead, then actually do it, right? Because what will happen is sometimes people are talking to you and coming at you, and now you find yourself being led.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to be very careful with that. And so make sure you are the one leading, and those folks are listening to you, and they're supporting you and giving you counsel, because the counsel should lead you towards getting the thing accomplished that you had envisioned, not changing you. So this is a trick that I've seen from, I'll just call them competitors, right? For lack of a better phrase. They'll end up dealing with a family, and they'll talk to them, and that family member will say, hey, I have this thing that I'd really like to invest in. I think it's a great idea, blah, 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 fits in. That advisor will talk to them and say, okay, let me come back to you with it. And then they'll find a way and say, I don't think that one's really good, but here's something else that you should invest in. Well, see, now they've taken your dream and discredited it right out the gate. That's the first red flag. And then they presented something else, but you don't know where that thing came from.
Right.
And that probably is their dream. That's probably where they're benefiting. Now, if they're a fiduciary, that gets into self-dealing, which is a real problem and a real valuation.
What is self-dealing?
Self-dealing is, if I am supposed to be representing something for you, but I'm actually putting it in front of you because it benefits me, that's now self-dealing, right? Because my job is to manage your money in the best interest of you. But if I'm benefiting from that, I'm now driving something that's for me. It's not in your best interest. That's now self-dealing. And that's a big thing that happens in the space. But that's why I always say, make sure you dream and make sure your dreams are being listened to, because it's your money and you're the CEO. You're the king or queen of your family. You matter. You are significant. That's the feeling. So if you don't feel like that, wherever you are and who's, quote unquote, supporting you or helping to manage your money, yeah, you should probably leave.
You know what we need to do? We need to host a family office day here where, after talking to my brother Derek, we always talk about like how to help men become better leaders, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the mentorship, we realize, number one, a lot of people just need simple things.
Yeah.
Number one, you need to be in an environment with other people who can give you really good guidance.
Of course.
Right. And I think even as we talk about like, membership has its benefits. I tweeted out, I want an algorithm-free existence. We talk about the feminization and the masculization. It's the algorization. We've all been algorized. You know what I'm saying? Like, this damn algorithm is messing us up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you need these spaces of clarity, right? To where you can orient, get direction, and going back into the world, being your true self. Same thing for women as well.
Yep.
And then we need spaces where the men and women can join in healthy environments, right? And where wealthy individuals can communicate about these things, whether it's philanthropy or politics or technology or family business structure or family planning or tax or estate planning and trust. It's like those spaces exist in such one-offs.
Yeah.
Right? But no consistency.
Yeah.
And so when I first seen you get this space, that's what I thought about. Like, man, this could really be the headquarters for the culture to turn into that institutional power.
Plant the flag.
You understand me? That really is like part of that vision that becomes a bigger thing of like, where's that environment where people can actually have those consistent experiences?
Well, I mean, you were part of the first one.
Yeah.
Right?
We
did the Factory Club.
Yeah. Shout out to
in
my
August.
brother Jalen.
Yeah. So sitting down with you and Jalen Brown and just talking about our dreams, all the stuff that we wanted.
Well, excuse me, man. I'm being rude. Do you want one of these chocolates?
I'm gonna have to have a chocolate, man.
It's Lions, man.
We talking about talking about the family office. I need to make sure my cognitive abilities are
Come
sharp.
on now, this is how I keep flowing like this. That's my secret.
Yeah, let's keep it high level.
But not to interrupt you.
No.
Excuse my wisdom, or your wisdom, rather.
No. So that event, right, and that retreat we put together, I think you felt it and you got to see it just like everyone else. It was a extremely diverse room and a set of leaders from all walks of life. Politicians, artists, we had athletes, we had influencers, we had financial leaders, all sitting in one room. And there was one insight. We were all tired of being Superman in our lives. We wanted to be a part of the Avengers, right? We wanted a safe space where we could learn, convene without judgment, right? Because sometimes with success, or especially with just money, people assume that you know everything, so you almost get caught up being on the pedestal,
Right.
where you feel like you can't learn, like you're supposed to know. And the reality is none of us know everything.
Right.
So you just want to go to a place where we're all peers, we're all at the same level, we're all dope, but I can actually take my cape off and someone can teach me, can give me guidance, right?
No, that was
where
beautiful.
I can share. That feeling is why we created the club, right? And now we can do those events monthly, and we're joining, and we can have members, because we're talking about something as high level as a family office, which really is an extremely high level construct and way of working that has been reserved for the highest of net worth, but is starting to come down a bit. That's still a very high bar. Sometimes you need to learn first and convene and kind of crawl, walk, run. I always say Factory Club is a way where you can crawl and walk before you run into, the idea of really being a part of an RIA, right? And having a wealth advisor. Let's try to work on our mindset. Let's learn, let's convene, let's gather, let's understand the power of access, and then flow in. I think that's an important step that obviously I hadn't seen before, which is why we created it. But I think it was something that we needed amongst the culture.
No, I mean, and with this sitting in that room, I learned so many different strategies and ideas from people that exist and have credentials that I never have, and don't even want to have, because it's going to take me 20 years to get them. So I'd rather be around people that are smarter than me in what they do, right? And the check and balance system is the diversity of the room, right? That you have some people in Boule, you some people in government, you some people in culture, some people in finance, in tech, right? And you have almost everything you need in the room. And that's a rare room that you sit in, because a lot of times we find like minds, right? But not always open minds, right? And it is a much key difference. We always want to be around people that are like us, but there's not enough diversity in the room.
Yeah.
And I've seen open minds, right, that were aligned and not just alike.
Yeah.
Right. And that was the beauty, because it was people that I can invite, you can invite, bro can invite. And these are different parts of the world. I heard Mike Tyson say this before. He said, I always see, man, the white boys, man, every time somebody pops up, they do these things where they have these rooms and they just get to know each other. This guy introduces you to this guy and they shake hands and they buddy and they know each other. He said, man, that's what I wish we did, man. We see each other, but we don't know each other. Yeah. Right. And I feel like that's the truth.
Yeah.
Like I'm watching. This person has the resources. This person there's people that did deals with each other that never even met. Yeah. You're just data and phone calls, but no connectivity. Yeah. And I think the truth of the matter is that in real life, I think that this solves 99% of our problems if we just get in a room and talk to each other.
Yeah. The thing is because we're so insecure, right? You have to get in rooms where you feel truly amongst peers, right? And when I say peers, sometimes it can mean socioeconomic class, because now you're no longer trying to separate yourself from everyone else. It's humbling being amongst peers, right? So like West Point was an interesting spot, right? Because almost all of us were team captains. Almost all of us were valedictorians or, salutatorians. So everyone was the best.
A salutatorian, I don't even know what that is.
Second.
Okay.
So it's like all of them were.
I don't know.
So, everyone was the best. Yeah. And it was this fascinating thing because it humbles you because you're like, you shake that ego, right? Because now it's no longer about, I got to prove that I'm here. It's like, man, the fact that I'm here and everyone's great, we're all great. Like it almost flips to where it turns into, I'm just grateful to be here. Right. That then changes the dynamic of it. So when you're in a room with everyone at the top of their field, well, you know you're there because you're the top of your field, and everyone knows you're there because you're the top of that field.
Right.
So now we're open to learn from each other. That is like, I've been fortunate enough, that is my friend circle.
Yeah.
I'm good at my thing, but you're good at your thing too. So now we're learning from each other, and it's this dialogue and this feeling of this mutual respect. I really took that model when, this will sound like a flex, but it wasn't intended to be. But I used to go to St. Bart's a lot, right? Flex. And what I loved about partying in St. Bart's is everyone was partying so hard and having fun, and every table's talking to each other. And you know why? It costs a lot of money for everybody to get there.
Right.
So everybody got money.
Right.
And when everybody has money, the party feels a lot like the same party I used to go to when nobody had money.
It's less
and it was fun.
Too.
It's not pretentious. It's just peers.
Yeah.
Like, I loved partying as a kid because none of us had money. So we were just dancing.
Yeah. And see, look, I done partied from East St. Louis to Cairns, right? Which is it's a hell of a diverse spectrum, right? If you know, you know, right? You know what I'm saying? From West Oakland to West Africa.
That part.
I have a very diverse range. You know what I'm saying? Don't pigeonhole me. But when I was out there, actually, Cairns taught me a lot. I actually interviewed this French guy out there who owned a couple of restaurants and clubs and things of that nature. I never ended up putting it out because the guy who shot it did a terrible job. You know who you are. But he was explaining how he was new money out there, right? And a lot of times they didn't treat him that well because he was new money. And they like really looked down on new money. They didn't want him owning things, and he had to really push and persevere to get there. But when I was out there, what I experienced that there was this level, you know, where everybody was in this state of like calm and like this space to where there's no performing at all. There's no performance of wealth. Right, because there's no assumption that anybody will be impressed, right? And everybody's just there to live. So much so that they just naked on the beach. It was wild, right? So, but it's like I like traveling because I'm a lateral learner. I don't learn like everybody else. Like, I need to go step into different spaces and domains and learn something from here and pull something from here and then analogize that to what we're doing, right? And that's why you sometimes see me like, I might use experience that I had in another continent to talk about activism, right? And that's not a connection that most people would ever even make. So I'm always going to do things in a completely different way. But when you realize that, is that I think we're so much in survival mode and so much in performance mode that we can't even really ever appreciate each other. And it's like you go to Atlanta and everybody is trying to outclass the next person instead of just appreciate each other. You understand me? Like the point of the wealth is not to compete with each other, it's to coordinate with each other.
That's right.
Not even just collaboration, coordination. I think we need to focus on coordination more.
Yeah.
Right? Like, how do we coordinate our finances? Right? How do we coordinate our systems and our knowledge and our information that we have and our businesses and our access and our, like, the coordination is the key to it all. And that, I think, it's a shift in culture. And culture, to me, is the best way to get past oppression. Because once something becomes cultural, it becomes normal.
Yes.
Right? And once it becomes cultural, there's no way to beat it. Because you actually have to decrease the vibration of the culture in order to make them suffer. But when you make it high level and they're intentional, which coordination requires a level of intentionality, you increase the complexity that actually becomes this resilience. And so now wealth becomes just a norm based on the habits, right? The coordination of knowledge and information and institutional building. And now it's like, oh, how do we get here in the next 50 years? All of a sudden, our families are much better. The stats are lower that were negative, and we have a much better outlook on the future because the culture changed.
Yes.
You know, and so I think that I think that because I'm so well traveled, and in a lot of ways read, and I have different experiences, most people will never be able to see that. And instead of trying to get them to see that, I'd rather just build it.
You have to.
And let them participate in it.
Yeah.
And so the cultural sovereignty is, how do we stop the outside influence from ruining the inside culture?
Yeah, I think oftentimes we need to reframe and provide a level of context for folks, right? Like when you are single and you are running through the world and you're making money, it is very easy to pop bottles, spend it on whatever it is that is giving you that level of gratification right now. Then you have kids and you start to think about, well, that club experience that I did or whatever, that chain and watch that I bought, did I just borrow that for my kids' future? The context, it changes your behavior. What we're having now, especially in America, and why it feels so different in other countries, is because family is at the center of a lot of other countries and not so much at the center of American culture right now. People are having less and less kids. We are below replacement rates. They're having children significantly later in life where the individual kind of selfish habits and behaviors are so ingrained that it's very difficult to break free of that. Then you have this complexity and distractions that come with the digital devices, right? To make it easier to be in another world and not be present in your own physical world. That combination makes for a really tough thing.
Right.
And so I think part of what I hope to help brand and revitalize is the beauty of family. Because now, again, like I said, it allows you know what you're fighting for. You want it to be around. You want to pass it down, that feeling, because you start thinking about the coordinated effort and what kind of world will your kids live in.
Right.
That changes.
Who are your kids dating and married?
Who are they dating? Who are they hanging out with?
Yeah.
Right, their friends. That matters. So you naturally start to invest more in a community. The other dynamic that we're challenged with right now is how mobile people are. People are moving around communities, so they're not planting roots. It's very easy to just pick up and go. So you're finding that people are not investing, not just in local politics, right? They're not investing in the resources and strengthening it, right? And what's around them. So we have to, there's this privilege that comes with the freedom and the mobility that we have, but there also is kind of this potential negative and downside impact of not investing in your communities and not caring for those environments. We have to get back to saying the things that we love, we want to be preserved. We want to be here forever. We want to care for it. We want to protect it, right? We want to invest in it. We want to nurture it. We want to grow it. That is what happens with the family office mindset and thinking, because you've fallen in love with something that you want to protect, preserve, grow, and nurture, and you want it to be there long after you're gone. That's where we have to get to that sense. And the more that you are chasing something external, or these external validations, or these other people just chasing anything, you will not invest in what you have. And that's why I say part of real wealth, which is ultimately what family offices are talking about, right? Like, is wealth. That's being happy with what you have. So you have to get into that mindset of appreciation and gratitude with what you have.
Being grateful versus being hateful. And if we talk
chasing something.
Or
right?
chasing something. 100-year plan.
Yeah.
Are you optimistic about the future?
I am.
Why?
Because I, one, believe in God. But two, I get to interact with a lot of people every day. And I think despite what people see online or in the media all the time, when I'm in the real world, right, and interaction, life is beautiful. Like, people are amazing. That's why I'm just so positive on most things, because my interactions with real humans in real life is really cool. And I believe in us as a society, despite the challenges that we have, right, and the hiccups. That happens. That you're supposed to have disagreements, right? You're supposed to have friction. That's ultimately fun, makes you feel alive. But I think at our core, people are really, really amazing. And I see that all around the world. You know, I love to travel like you, right? And I've probably been to 60-ish countries. And there's something that you see around all these countries, right? And it's like the beauty of people. And there's this aspect where I'm like, yeah, society will be all right.
Yeah, I think that's key. If you only live in your house and you live in an abusive house, then your world is abusive and that's all you know.
That's all you know.
Right? But then when you open up your worldview and you travel to other people's homes and you see loving environments, you realize that's only occurring in that house. It's not occurring in every house, right? And then the more places you visit, your context windows grow and become bigger and bigger. And in those spaces where it's not occurring, you now have all this room for optimism, right? And so as you start talking about attention, if we only paying attention to the negative things, and we can only hold negative consciousness, which only produces a negative reality. So I think that is key. But as we was talking, I was thinking about the research aspect of having institutional power, right? And building out 100-year plan, because I think the further you can look out in the future, right, the more optimistic you can become, because the less you feel trapped by what's happening in your present.
Yeah.
Right. So how do we then build a 100-year plan where our daughters are looking forward to it in the future?
Well, you just nailed it within the question, right? Part of that is stop thinking programmatically and start thinking institutionally. So the beauty in the question is actually the answer. Start thinking about 100-year plan. If you think about 100-year plan, you actually will start to build an institution to bring that to fruition. What we're thinking about a lot of times is today plan.
Yeah.
And that's what I said. We have to get out of that feeling of survival and get into thinking about the state of the future, right? And what we want our kids to live in.
Have you seen institutions do that?
Yeah. You see it around college education, and those are institutions. You see it around religion, right? Because when you think programmatically, a program is this kind of thing that you're planning for tomorrow, right? So, okay, this year I want to plan a gala. Fantastic. You do all this work, you get to the gala, and after the gala, it's over. You're done. You wipe your hands. When you think about an institution, you're saying, okay, what's my theory of change in the goal and what I want to see? All right, now what steps do I need to take in order to accomplish that? Those steps may be programs, and a series of programs added together becomes this institutional framework for achieving a goal that is big enough, right? So when you see it within religions, why do you think a lot of religious organizations, they're going out and doing pilgrimage or going to other countries and they're recruiting? They're building the pipeline of the religion so that it continues to grow and their philosophy can be around for years. That's why then they're investing in education and they're indoctrinating, we can even say, right, communities to make sure that that philosophy and way of thinking stays around for hundreds of years. That's institutional thinking. So again, as you look at your framework and just within your family, if you have a certain religious belief and set of values, you want to instill that into your children. Okay. So if you do that, how do you do that? You then normalize, right, some of the behaviors. We go to church every Sunday, right? Or we go to the mosque or whatever. We go to the synagogue. All right, now you put that into the behaviors, and you might go to a camp, right, to do that. You then might look at the schools that you go to, right? And you bake it into the norms and the values and the systems and traditions of your family so that it hopefully can pass down and stick around. People go so far as they will write and mandate things into their trust. And they use the governance and they weaponize the money that they have, where if you want to take part in the family's money or business, you have to adhere to our rules and guidelines. That's your choice. It's not for me to say whether that's right or wrong, but that is another way in which individuals do that. But I think to answer your question, it starts with actually asking yourself that same question. It changes your mindset. And so I appreciate you for even framing it that way and asking, like, what is the next 100 years? And that's something everybody should be asking, right? What happens when I'm no longer here? I think about that a lot. with my kids.
Yeah. Yeah, that keeps me up at night.
That keeps me up.
It's not for everybody, and I know some people don't care about legacy, but I do. The continuity of when I take my last breath, how's my work still working?
Come on.
You know, I think about that a lot, and I'm in that phase of life that thinks about legacy all the time.
Yeah.
You know, and that matters to me. And as a futurist, you know, I'm always simulating what the future is in my mind. So when things occur, I've already experienced it, and it feels like it's already happened to me.
Yeah.
And it also is like when you look ahead of the curve, you're acting on it as if it's happening now. So people may think you crazy. It's like Noah with the ark. You know what I mean? Look, it feels like it's already flooding. Like I'm building this ship like it's raining on me now. So y'all might see clear weather, but I see the flood coming.
That's right.
Right. And we need those people that can help people, you know, or build the ark for when those flood times come. Last but not least, I want to talk about, get a little more into the factory and what you've all done, and like, you know, the what it comprises of, the working parts that exist in it, and the journey, you know what I mean, that it took to even to get here. Because I think we kind of speaking, this has been, I've seen you for the last 4-5 years working on this concept or developing of this to the space to where it is today.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about, you know, it speaks on deal flow that you all have going on, right? I know that private deals are huge right now.
Yeah.
Right? We see what's about to happen with SpaceX and some of the other market right now.
100%.
A lot of money flooding into that. I often I was having a conversation with Meek Mills about this, about, you know, getting access to some of those deals. And sometimes you're around these people, but they're not always giving you access, right? Then you have a lot of staff here as well. And I don't always know what everybody do, but they just look like they doing something important because they never stop working. You know what I'm saying? So as people are going to be seeing more and more of this space, I just want them to walk away with clarity of like, oh, I need to come there.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. It's a brilliant question. And there's a lot to unpack. So I'll say what we're building here is truly the Culture's Family Office, right? I wanted a space where people in and around the culture can come and bring their dreams to life, right? And this idea of legacy. And when we say the mission of cultural sovereignty, it's so big that it's actually hard to invest in it or even see how you do it. And so you go back the years when you asked me, I had to build it in parts, right? So, you know, I learned this as an engineer. So when we were building a Navy destroyer, and this is back in 2005, I'm a lead engineer on the project, and it was a 10-year build that we knew we were going to be building in stealth for 10 years, and we only had a portion of it. And then another company, Lockheed Martin, had a portion, and another company, right, may have a portion. So it was such a big vision and big objective that it would take 10 years still broken in several parts across many different institutions. When I took something like cultural sovereignty and this goal and this vision that I had, not only of helping to close the quality of life gap in this country, because I think we need to actively work on that, but the fact that the people who are driving culture and influence should also be leaders in wealth. That was so big that I had to break it down into parts, right? And so when you look at the structure of the company and why there is so many people, because those are now the parts that have come together. So one part you have, which is the technology infrastructure of the business. How are we leveraging AI to incorporate and optimize all systems across the machine? That is one division. Then you look at philanthropy in Factory Cares. How are we ensuring that impact flows throughout all that we do? We have a dual mandate here, which is purpose and profit. So yes, we need to make money, but we also are driving and we need to solve for our purpose. I call it, you need to do the thing that your mom's proud of, right? That's ingrained in our culture. So I need to do stuff that I know my mom is proud of. She might love that I make some money, but you know what? If I help out and pay for somebody to go to school, she's way more proud of that than me buying a Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
Right? So I call it the mom effect. So that is our cares division. Then you have our media division or entertainment, which is really about storytelling and narrative. Again, I said people that are next gen money or unexpected wealth group or are younger, our greatest asset is ourselves. And the way in which you tell the story and develop your personal brand is of the utmost importance. So we have an entire division dedicated to that. Then there gets into the more financially centric products that you're talking about. So we'll start with our partners division. The partners division is where we do deal by deal asset allocation, right? But just we're investing in asset classes across. Here's what's interesting. This gets you into alpha versus beta in the markets, right? So you guys bear with me a little bit.
This is like red pill talk.
This is red pill talk. But
no, I'm joking like that.
No.
The masculinity.
No. But when you get into it, right, you start to look at these things and you say, all right, what's beta? Beta is our public markets. It is what everyone has access to. We can all invest and we encourage people to invest. But because everyone has access to it, there is no true unfair advantage. Then there's alpha, which are alternatives or non-public off-market deals, which has outpaced and grown faster than the public markets. That is where you have an unfair advantage. That is where you're growing faster than the markets. That is what we call alpha. Alpha is getting compressed because as technology improves, now everyone can kind of diligence deals and they get really good. But who gets the allocation to those deals? Meaning, who has the right to invest in these private deals? That's relationships. So relationships actually become alpha.
Right.
So our partners division, which is part of why it's called partners, is because it's about relationships and the relationships we have with the best investors in the world and the best funds in the world to get access to the best deals in the world, right? That is our alpha. Then you get into our last division, which is the newest that we just launched, and that is actually the RIA or the Registered Investment Advisory business. So that is Factory Capital, led by my partner Travis. That division now is talking about truly being the wealth manager or the advisor and the custodian or the fiduciary, of individuals' money. That division is firewalled and protected because that is institutional grade, right? And we treat that very, very serious. So you kind of have this firewall division from the rest of the business. But, you know, his job is to protect, right, and look after each individual member of our organization, their family's money, right, and assets. So that is the whole entirety of the business. So yeah, very tough to do that at once. You build it in stages, you build it in parts the exact same way that we had to build that massive Navy destroyer that's one of the most dominant, ships in the world.
Now, how did the pancakes get here?
The pancakes.
Yeah, I seen the Patti LaBelle pancakes.
So I was like, wait, the pancakes? I said, I missed something. No, so that's actually very interesting, and that is some work that I'm extremely proud of, not only as a fan of Patti LaBelle, but my mom being a fan of Patti LaBelle. Like I said, I encourage everybody to do some things to make your mom proud.
Yeah.
So Miss LaBelle has had an iconic pie business that went viral, 10, 12 years ago. It's an amazing business. The recipes, they come from her. So, the pie that you're tasting is really her pie recipe. The mac and cheese that you get from her is really her mac and cheese recipe. So a few months ago, we ended up supporting her on her vision and dream to expand and institutionalize that business. And so we were fortunate enough to work with her and provide some meaningful capital for expansion. Where again, so she can continue to build her dream and support her family with an amazing business that's got her name and face all over it. So, yeah, shout out to Miss LaBelle, and please go buy some of those patty pies.
Yeah.
Pancake mix is hitting. So if you haven't had that, go check that out.
Patty LaBelle face just makes sense. I see we had the Aunt Jemima.
Come on.
But Patty LaBelle? Yeah, that hit different.
No.
I only know one other person that make pies as good or better. That's my brother Farrar. Just have to give him a shout out.
You gotta do that. That's family. Everybody loves their family's pies. But, but no, she's incredible. Incredible businesswoman.
So who else have you worked with?
There's lots of folks that I don't know that they want named, but I'll say, from your top athletes to your favorite actors, to icons like Miss LaBelle, since you saw her box in The Office. But I think there's also lottery winners and everyday folks. So we work with people that come from all walks of life, and I say, if you've sacrificed and you've worked your butt off to provide for your family, I have a great deal of respect and admiration for you, and I hope to one day be able to work with you and help you accomplish your dreams. So that's our goal, and something I pride myself on doing.
All right, I got just one last question for you.
Uh-oh.
No, it's a important one. I think you're gonna like it. You are a father that raising daughters.
Yeah.
Right. I see your wife in here working with you, right? And I seen your parents here today.
Yeah.
So it's very much of a family office.
Oh yeah. Today was that day.
How would you suggest, if you could give advice to the world, this generation of men?
Yeah.
I think you do a good job of leading your family. So what advice would you give to another man out there trying to lead his family and would love advice from somebody who I think is doing it well at a high level?
Somebody once told me they don't give advice, they tell stories. So I'm gonna use that line, and I'm gonna tell a story. In my household, I have a wife who's an entrepreneur as well, right? Who has a very clear vision and dream that she's been actively working towards for a long time.
And you got a black wife?
Yes. Yes, I do. I have a very lovely wife. When we met, we were both entrepreneurs, though, right? So we're both building these individual dreams, right? And you go down that path, and it was very cool because, if you're a hard worker, right, and you got crazy hours, it's good to be around somebody that also has that because they understand. So we understood what we were each doing. Then we get to the point where we decide to start a family. And now you're trying to take these individuals, right, and get on the same page and operate as a team.
Yeah.
That is hard. That is very hard. Schedules, selfish, and I call myself a geriatric dad, right? We didn't have kids until I was 37. So it was very, very tough. The beauty of working together and a business is now it gives another goal, and the business becomes something that the family is managing together, and it creates a great sense of camaraderie and this feeling of a team and something else to talk about other than just the kids. And I think that was important for us, that we needed something else to build and build together. So I guess if I was to frame that into advice, I think as we look at our families, it is sometimes uncomfortable for strong leaders, strong individuals to feel like they work for someone or are being led by someone. But it is very easy to set a vision and a goal and everyone work for that or work towards that. And so I think in our household, we have very clear goals and vision, and we all, my dad, my mom, Chev, myself, the kids, we are all working towards that. And it just minimizes this feeling of ego, right? So I may have put the goal out there, right, and may have set the vision, but we all kind of hacked at it, but now it feels like it's all of ours, and we're all just playing our part. And I think that was a very kind of eye-opening and game changer in my family, because my dad's a monster, right? Yeah. He's an alpha guy himself, you know what I mean? And my mom is no slouch, so it's just a lot of strong personalities. So I had to put something out there that we were all like, okay, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
We're going to hold the corner for that. So all the brothers out there, man, I just know sometimes it's hard because we see something, right? And we want to go after it, and we're hoping that everyone's going to support us. But if you can get them to buy in to that goal and that dream, they bought into that. That's what they're supporting. And they'll support you as a byproduct of it. And I think that's something that we have to put out there.
So from what I hear is find a vision that your family is willing to submit to.
Absolutely.
You know. And so instead of submitting to you, right? Of course the family submits to God, but then what is that vision that they're willing to submit to, that they will give up their ego for, that they will become loyal to, you know what I mean? Put the sweat equity in and align and coordinate around the development of that vision, you know? And so it's not you are a leader just because you are a male. You understand me? It's like, no, prove that you are a leader by producing a valuable enough vision for everybody to follow.
There you go.
Right? Including you. There you go. Right? And when everybody plays their part, there's a level of coordination and alignment that produces harmony within a family.
That's it.
Right? And you have to have a family that's willing to submit to. If they're not, then gotta go find you another family.
The biggest vision wins.
Yeah.
So I always say, if you want to lead, you better have the biggest vision.
Yeah.
Because if not, the people are going to go work for a bigger vision.
Yeah. I think this conversation around family, right? Because I think you can't talk about family offices and the coordination of family and business structure systems, all those things, without really kind of getting to the core of something that I think is at the heart of the crisis today.
Yeah. Right?
There's anarchy with this lack of guidance and coordination of what is the future of family. Right? How do we build this thing? Is it this nuclear family? Is it extended family? You know, in a times of financial crises and nihilism, like how do we share resources? How do we build those resources? Like how do we create stability? I think that's what people are looking for today. And I hope this conversation for a lot of people at least brought an idea, right, of how to begin to structure your family. Right? Whether you're starting off with yourself, number one, right? Because each individual parts, right, is making up the health of the whole, right? But then when you are with a partner, how does that partnership, right, turn into a healthy partnership within a business? And that business is just the activity of life, right? And that life becoming managed, right, correctly allows you to do business with other families. Here's the thing. We already do business with other families. When you take that Hennessy and you take a sip, that's the Hennessy family. You understand me? That Audemars Piguet, is that the one everybody's getting the swatches?
Yeah, that's what I saw.
Family. You understand me? The Colgate toothpaste?
Yeah.
Family. Morgan Bank? Family. You're doing business with families, right? And then when we think about it like that, by saying that, how do I make my family an institution? So when I'm doing business with other families, if you will, right, you're showcasing an understanding of the way the world works and what the world respects, number one. And then if my family is doing business with Keenan's family, you understand me? Now we can coordinate and share resources and access and network and things of that nature. That's a way to optimize the relationships within the networks. Because I think we're trying to get so much individuals to do business together. And it's like, no, meet my family.
Yeah.
My family is going to do business with yours. I don't know. You know, I haven't had children yet. But I have a daughter and a son. I don't know whose family they marry into. You know, who will they be with, right? Today, it leaves you with a state of like, you know, confusion or even fear of saying that I'm going to bring my child into the world for them to be with who? You know, where can I find stability in the future if I'm not building anything that represents that stability in the future? Right. And so our fear should be alleviated by our daily actions, saying that we're working towards something that we are believing in. And I think that this lack of belief and a lack of meaning in the things that we're building is what's creating this nihilism, because there really should be no reason to fear. There's the narrative of what's happening in the world. Then there's the narrative of the story that you're living within yourself, and then the nodes of your own network. But if the connections that you have are meaningless, right, then they're not producing any real value for you or the people you're connected with. My family is doing business with his family. My family doing business with my brother Medici and anybody else that I meet. Your family is doing business with us just by giving us your time and your attention right now. And hopefully that this has been valuable return on attention so that it can produce something valuable for your family as they sit here and have this conversation. That young son that you have sitting there, he's sitting there listening to two minds that he can say, man, I one day want to think like this, right? I want to build my family, because it is a process of building and maintaining, right? And stabilizing and producing continuity over time and having a responsibility and accountability for what we are producing. And when the culture becomes built around these families joining together, I think that's when we no longer have any more problems. I think that we should optimize for building better and stronger families today. That saves the children, that produces a better future, that puts a perimeter around them, create protection networks, mentorship networks, that handles the fact that you might not have financial literacy, but if my family does, we can share that information. You might not have this person within your family network, but I'll share that with you. There should not be us finding how do we get more followers? How do we get more families? You understand me? I think that's the shift and the change to where we are now creating a better America. We're creating a better Africa, Spain, whatever the hell you watching this from. You understand me? Hola, ni hao. You understand me? Kamsi hanada. You understand me? I got a lot
good.
of
That man good. That man good right there.
But first of all, I want to thank you for taking your time to show up, and I want people to get into Factory. Study what it's all about. Visit the headquarters here. Bring your family here, right? And not only just listen to the message itself, but invest in the message, right? This is the start of the next 1,000 family offices just from this conversation alone. You did your research, you looked it up, you reached out to us, and then from there, you started your journey. And that journey produced untold wealth and a much better future. I'm 19 Keys, and that's what High Level Conversations is all about. Factory means to build, and that's exactly what we're doing. We're building a sovereign culture. Peace.
19 Keys, and this is High Level Conversation. Tap in with the God. It's 19 Keys, above 19 Keys. The execution of knowledge is power.
Teach you how to be a god.
From a boy to a man, and ultimately back to the natural state of being, and to a God.